Entry 074. The Midnight Waystation. Recorded by Eric, Head of Field Research. The date is, well, the dashboard clock on my sedan just stopped at 12 o'clock and started pulsing. It is a rhythmic, neon green heartbeat in the middle of this absolute void. I have been driving down State Route 0 for what feels like 3 hours, but the odometer hasn't moved a single tenth of a mile since the sun, or whatever passes for it here, went down. It is stuck. Everything is stuck in this stagnant, ink-black pocket of the world. I am stepping out of the car now. The door shuts with a heavy, metallic thud that feels too final, a sound that seems to get swallowed by the darkness the moment it leaves the hinge. There is no echo here. That is the first thing you notice when you step into a grade A liminal tear. The air is thick, tasting like ozone and stale coffee grounds. It is heavy, pressing against my chest like a physical weight, like the atmosphere itself is trying to tell me I belong here. Ahead of me, the only light for 1,000 miles, or maybe just 2 inches, the geometry is starting to feel fluid, is the Midnight Waystation. It is a derelict gas station that looks like it was plucked out of a 1990s postcard and dropped into a bucket of black dye. The sign above the pumps is flickering with a violent, electric stutter that I can actually feel vibrating in my teeth. The E in fuel is completely dead, leaving only fuel glowing in a sickly, radioactive violet that stains the gravel around my feet. The gravel breaks under my boots like dry bone with every step I take. It is too loud, unnervingly crisp. In a place this silent, every footfall feels like a shout, an invitation to whatever might be listening in the dark. I can hear the heat rising off the asphalt, that low, shimmering hiss of a road that hasn't seen rain or a real car in decades. I am approaching pump number 4. The plastic casing is yellowed and cracked, like old, sun-dried skin. There is a layer of dust on the screen so thick I cannot see the price per gallon, but I suspect currency doesn't mean much here. I reach out. My hand is shaking just a bit, natural reaction, Eric, keep it together. Focus on the data. I touch the handle. It is freezing. Despite the heat coming off the ground, the metal is ice cold, a sub-zero bite that travels up my arm. The handle rattles loosely in its metal cradle as I lift it. There is no mechanical whir. No sound of a motor engaging deep underground. Just a hollow, wet suction sound from deep within the hose, as if the station itself is taking a long, ragged breath. Is anyone there? I call out. My voice doesn't travel. It drops to the ground about 3 feet in front of me, muffled by the oppressive silence. I need a fill-up. And maybe a map. Silence. The kind of silence that has a sharp, ringing frequency to it. It is the sound of a space that was built for people but has forgotten what they look like, or maybe it's the sound of a space that is actively trying to remember. I turn toward the convenience store window. The glass is tinted so dark it is basically a mirror, reflecting the violet glow of the fuel sign. I see myself in the reflection. I look pale. Wrong. The violet light makes my skin look bruised, my eyes like 2 empty pits. Behind my reflection, I can see rows of shelves. They aren't empty, but they aren't full either. There are shapes. Brightly colored boxes of cereal and snacks that don't have names on them. Just colors. Vibrant, aggressive reds. Flat, matte blues. A wall of static disguised as a grocery aisle. The front door is glass with a faded open sign hanging by a single, crusty suction cup. I reach for the handle. The metal hinges let out a long, high-pitched protest that sets my teeth on edge and makes the hair on my neck stand up. As the door swings open, a bell rings. It is a thin, lonely chime that feels like it's coming from a different room, or a different year altogether. The smell hits me immediately. It is not gasoline anymore. It is floor wax and artificial vanilla, but underneath that, something metallic and sharp. Like a handful of old pennies or wet rust. The air inside is even colder. I can see my breath now. A small, white cloud drifting slowly toward the back of the store. The refrigerators in the back are producing a deep, sub-bass vibration. It is a frequency I can feel in my molars. I am walking toward the counter now. My boots are squeaking rhythmically against the cold linoleum, but the sound feels miles away, disconnected from my feet. The floor is patterned in black and white checkers, but as I look down, the squares seem to be shifting, stretching, creating an impossible perspective that leads toward the back of the room where the shadows are thickest. There is a bell on the counter. A small, silver dome, tarnished with age. I do not want to ring it. Every rational part of my brain is screaming that if I ring that bell, something is going to answer, and I might not like the form it takes. But that is why I am here. To document. To verify the archives. I extend my finger. The silver surface reflects the violet light from outside, twisting my face into a distorted mask. I press down. The bell rings out with a sharp, silver clarity that cuts through the hum of the refrigerators like a razor. I wait. My heart is hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. From the back room, behind the heavy plastic strips of the walk-in cooler, I hear it. A movement. Not a footstep. A heavy, wet sliding sound, like something large being dragged over dry paper. Hello? I say, my voice cracking. I am just passing through. I just need some directions. The sliding stops. Then, a voice. It doesn't and oppose, come from a person. It sounds like it is coming from the speakers in the ceiling, distorted, grainy, and layered with static, like an old radio transmission caught in a lightning storm. We, Don and oppose, have maps for where you are. Eric. My name. It knew my name. The lights overhead flicker once, twice, and then go out completely with a sharp mechanical snap. The only thing I can see now is the glowing violet FUL sign through the window, and two small, pale circles reflecting the light from behind the counter. They look like eyes, but they and oppose, too wide apart to be human. I need to keep moving. I cannot stay at the counter. I am turning back toward the door, but the door, where is the door? The violet light is still there, but the glass is gone. The frame is gone. It is just an opening into a swirling, purple fog that looks like a bruised lung. I can hear the rhythmic tapping of something leaking from the ceiling. I can feel a cold drop hit the back of my neck, sliding down my spine like an ice cube. I am moving now. Fast. My footsteps are a frantic, hollow drumming on the linoleum. I am heading toward the back of the store, toward the refrigerators. It is the only place with any light left, that dull, flickering blue-white glow of the milk crates. I have to find an exit, a back door, anything. This ISN and oppose, just a gas station. It is a throat. And I think it is starting to swallow. The refrigerators, they are an and oppose, cooling food. As I get closer, the glass doors are fogged from the inside, but the vapor ISN and oppose, white or clean. It is a swirling, charcoal gray, like smoke trapped in a jar. The vibration from the cooling units is so intense now that my vision is blurring, shaking the very liquid in my eyes, turning the edges of the room into a smeared oil painting. I reach for the handle of the milk cooler. The metal is rusted shut, resisting me with a stubborn weight, but it eventually gives way with a long, agonizing groan that sounds like a dying animal gasping its last breath. Instead of cartons of milk or plastic bottles of soda, there are rows upon rows of heavy glass jars filled with a thick, translucent amber fluid. And inside the fluid, I cannot tell. They look like memories. Small, flickering Polaroids suspended in gelatin, glowing with a faint, internal heat. A single bubble rises in the jar nearest to me, popping against the lid with a sharp sound. I push through them, the plastic sticking to my jacket like cold skin. They are coated in a layer of grease that smells like burnt rubber and old, oxidized copper. On the other side, the warehouse is impossible. The ceiling doesn't and oppose exist. Looking up, I see the night sky, but there are no stars, no moon, and no clouds. Just a vast, empty purple expanse that matches the sickly, pulsing glow of the sign outside. The floor is an infinite grid of those black and white tiles, stretching into a horizon I cannot define, lost in a violet haze. And the shelves, they are miles high, disappearing into the dark like the skeletons of skyscrapers. The metal racks sway in a wind I cannot feel on my skin, producing a low, metallic groan that echoes into the void. There, between two towering racks of unmarked crates, I see a silhouette. It is flat, like a shadow that lost its owner and decided to stand up and walk on its own. It is dragging a heavy, galvanized bucket across the tiles. The sound of the metal bucket against the linoleum is like a needle dragging across a ruined record, a screeching, metallic scrape that makes my marrow feel cold. "Excuse me," I call out, my hand instinctively reaching for the recorder in my pocket to ensure the tape is still spinning and capturing every detail. I am Eric. I am with the archives. I am looking for a way back to the highway. State Route 0. The shadow stops. It doesn't and oppose have a face, no features to speak of, but I feel a gaze. A heavy, judgmental stare that makes the hair on my arms stand up like needles. The few overhead lights, hanging from invisible wires like executed men, stutter and flicker in perfect sync with my racing heartbeat. The highway is a loop, Eric. The voice returns, but it isn't and oppose coming from the shadow. It is coming from inside the bucket. I can hear something wet and viscous splashing around inside that galvanized metal. You didn't and oppose drive here. You arrived here. There is a fundamental difference between traveling and being caught. The shadow begins to tilt its head, a slow, unnatural rotation that defies every law of biology. I hear the distinct, sharp snap of dry wood breaking, or perhaps old, brittle vertebrae. "What do you want?" I ask, taking a slow step back. My boot lands in a puddle I didn't and oppose see before. I look down. It is not water. It is that same amber fluid from the jars in the cooler, thick and smelling of lost summers and ozone. It is leaking from one of the crates stacked high above me, tapping rhythmically against the floor. "I want you to check the register," the shadow says. Its voice is now a terrifying chorus of a dozen different versions of myself, all speaking at slightly different intervals, an echo of my own voice I never authorized. "The price has changed, Eric. The market has shifted while you were wandering the aisles." Suddenly, the warehouse walls, if you can even call this boundary a wall, start to contract. The towering shelves begin to lean inward, closing the gap above me like the ribs of a giant closing its chest to trap a heart. I hear the deep, grinding rumble of tectonic plates shifting, or heavy furniture being moved in the room directly above your head. The space is becoming claustrophobic, the air growing hot, humid, and smelling of ancient, unwashed laundry. I turn and run. My footsteps are a frantic, rhythmic drumming against the tiles. I burst back through the plastic curtains, desperate for the relative safety of the storefront. The open sign is now blinking a different word, none. I reach the front counter. The silver bell is no longer silver, it is glowing a dull, angry red. The heat coming off it is searing, warping the air around it. I look at the register screen. The green digital numbers are scrolling through dates at an impossible speed. 1994, 2008. 2026, 2055. It stops with a sharp, mechanical thud. The screen reads, "Total, your eyes." The cash drawer slams open with enough force to dent the counter. It is not filled with crumpled bills or rolls of coins. It is filled with human teeth. Hundreds of them. Molars, incisors, wisdom teeth, all clean and white, rattling against each other as the drawer vibrates with a life of its own. Eric. The voice is right behind my ear now. I can feel the cold, damp breath on the back of my neck. You have been here for 60 years. Don and Oppos, you want to see your car? Don and Oppos, you want to see what time has done while you were browsing? I spin around, my heart hammering a frantic, uneven rhythm. The front window is no longer obscured by purple fog. It is clear, but the world outside has aged a century in a second. I see my sedan. But it is not the car I drove in. It is a rusted, hollow skeleton, buried up to its will wells in the gray, hungry gravel. The tires are long gone, rotted into the soil, and the rhythmic pulsing of the dashboard clock is now the only thing left alive in the wreck, a green ghost in a metal tomb. The front door of the store opens on its own, invited by a sudden, mournful wind. Go on, the voice coos, sounding almost sympathetic now. Check the odometer. See how far you and Oppos, VE actually gone. My legs feel like lead, heavy and unresponsive. I am walking toward the door, each step a struggle against a silent vacuum pulling me back into the store, back toward the teeth and the amber jars. I step out onto the gravel. The air is freezing again, a sudden plunge into a sub-zero winter. The wind finally arrives, carrying the scent of ancient dust and the metallic tang of a coming storm. I reach the car. The metal is orange with rot, flaking off like dead skin under my touch. I peer through the shattered driver's side window. The dashboard is covered in thick, gray cobwebs that move like silk in the wind. I brush them away, my fingers trembling. The odometer ISN and Oppos, stuck at 0 anymore. It is counting. But it is counting backwards. 9, 8, 7, 6. As the numbers drop, the world around me begins to flicker and stutter like a film reel melting in a projector. The gas station turns into a forest, then a construction site, then a field of tall, dead grass that hisses in the wind. I am losing the signal, I say into the recorder, my voice trembling, barely a whisper. If anyone finds this, the Waystation is not a place. It is a filter. It catches what the universe discards. And right now, I think I am being discarded. I hear the distinct, heavy crunch of someone walking toward me from the darkness of the road. They are carrying a heavy flashlight, but the light it emits is black. It doesn't and Oppos, shine, it casts a shadow of light onto the ground, erasing the world wherever it touches. The black light hits my face with a sharp, electronic click. Everything goes silent. The hum, the hiss, the vibration, all of it vanishes into a perfect, terrifying null. The black light it is not an illumination. It is a systematic erasure of everything it touches. Everywhere the heavy, freezing beam lands, the colors of my jacket, the skin on my hands, the very texture of the air, it all just bleeds into a flat, gray static that tastes like copper and dead electricity. I am looking at my right hand and my fingers are blurring into low-resolution pixels, shimmering and sparking like a corrupted video file on an old monitor. I hear the high-pitched, agonizing whine of an overcharged capacitor filling the air. Do not look at the light, Eric, I tell myself, though my own thoughts are starting to sound like they are being played through a crushed tin can in a distant room. The figure holding the flashlight ISN and Oppos, walking in any way a human would understand. It is sliding across the gravel without moving its legs, a smooth, frictionless glide that ignores every law of inertia I have ever studied. The sound of the bucket is gone now. Now it is just that rhythmic, wet dragging noise against the stones, like a heavy weight being pulled over dry meat. As it gets closer, the gas station behind me begins to fold. It is literally folding inward. The roof of the convenience store bends downward like a piece of wet, rotting cardboard, the structural steel snapping with the sharp, rhythmic crack of 1,000 dry twigs being broken at once. The fluorescent lights inside the store are popping one by one, a machine gun fire of shattered glass and gas. The black light is now focused directly on my chest, and I can feel my internal organs cooling, my heartbeat slowing down to match the agonizingly slow rhythm of the pulsing dashboard clock in the rusted car. The air around the figure is vibrating so fast it is creating a harmonic whistle that threatens to burst my eardrums. "You have the recorder," the figure says. This time, the voice doesn't and oppose, come from a speaker or a bucket or the ceiling. It comes from the very gravel beneath my boots, a vibration that travels up my legs and into my spine. The archives always want to keep what should be forgotten, Eric. You are a collector of trash. A curator of the discarded. I swallow hard, but my throat feels like it is lined with thick, dry sandpaper. The air is so thin I am gasping, my lungs burning as if I am breathing in crushed glass and ozone. I collect the truth, I manage to choke out through the pain. Even the parts that hurt. Even the parts that the universe doesn't and oppose, want to be seen. The figure tilts the flashlight upward. The beam hits the FUL sign above us. I hear a violent, electrical zap and the violet glow is sucked into the black light instantly, extinguished like a candle in a total vacuum. The world goes pitch black, an absolute, terrifying void, except for the tiny, glowing green numbers on the odometer of my car. They are the only things left in the entire universe. 9, 8, 7. The numbers count down with a mechanical finality. When it hits 0, there is no sound of an explosion. There is only the sound of a massive vacuum being filled instantaneously. A sudden, violent rush of air that feels like being hit by a high-speed freight train. I am thrown backward, tumbling through a space that has no up or down, no left or right. My back hits something hard, flat, and cold. I am gasping, my lungs burning with the sudden, miraculous return of oxygen. I open my eyes. The violet light is gone. The gray gravel is gone. I am sitting on the floor of my office at the archives. The fluorescent lights overhead are humming their usual, steady, comforting tune. The sound is a low, constant drone that I used to find annoying, but now it sounds like a lullaby. My desk is there, solid and mahogany. My coffee is still steaming in its ceramic mug, the scent of hazelnut and warm cream filling the small room. But I am still holding the recorder. My knuckles are white from the grip. I reach for my coffee, but my hand is shaking so violently the liquid sloshes over the side. It hits a stray piece of paper on my desk, soaking through the fiber with a soft, hissing sound. I stare at the paper. It is a receipt. A thermal paper receipt, thin and curling at the edges, exactly like the ones from a gas station. I do not remember buying anything today. I haven and oppose, left the building since early this morning. I pick it up with trembling fingers. The paper feels strange, not like paper at all, but like old, sun-bleached plastic that has been buried in a desert for decades. The ink is faded, a ghostly gray, but I can make out the header in a blocky, retro font, the Midnight Waystation, Route 0. There is only one item listed on the receipt. It ISN and oppose, gas. It ISN and oppose, a map. The receipt says, item, 1 observer. Price, paid in full. The light bulb in my office flickers with a sharp, metallic click. Just once. For a split second, a fraction of a heartbeat, the walls of my office aren't and oppose, white paint anymore. They are covered in yellowed, damp wallpaper that smells of stagnant water and old wax. And the door is gone, replaced by a row of identical, unmarked refrigerators with fogged glass. Eric? A voice calls from the hallway. It sounds like my assistant, Sarah. It should be Sarah. But there is a delay. A half-second lag between the movement of the air and the sound hitting my ears, like a badly dubbed movie. I hear a sliding sound in the hallway. Not a footstep. A heavy, wet sliding noise. The archives, they aren't and oppose, a building anymore. They and oppose, part of the inventory. This office is just another aisle in the Waystation. I am leaning into the microphone now, pressing my lips against the cold metal mesh, whispering this last part so the thing in the hallway doesn't and oppose, hear me. If you are listening to this, if you find yourself on a road where the clock stops and the signs begin to flicker, do not pull over. No matter how empty the tank is. No matter how tired you are. No matter how much the violet light looks like a beacon of hope. Keep driving. Even if the road ends, even if the asphalt turns to smoke, just keep driving. My office door starts to open. The handle turns with a slow, grinding sound of metal on metal. The hinges let out a long, high-pitched whine. End of recording.